on their radar. When I made a speech about a year after I was in practice here, at a meeting that was protesting the coming execution of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. They were charged with the conspiracy and they got the death penalty in the first time they were going to execute people in peacetime. And I made a speech opposing that. That was the first thing in their report. The next thing in their report about me was I again spoke at a meeting protesting the denial of a passport to Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson was the first great civil rights fighter of our time. And the government had taken away his passport because they was afraid that when he went to a foreign country, he would say something that was detrimental to the interests of the United States. So they took it away, and that was a fight to gain it back. I spoke on that. Time that I thought that they did something which they really were trying to get Leo Branton was, that was a report in there from the desk of J. Edgar Hoover to all agents in the Los Angeles area and in France. We have it on reliable information that Leo Branton is going to Paris on TW flight number so-and-so on such and such a date to visit his client Dorothy Dandridge, who's doing a movie in the French Riviera. It is thought that he might visit some of his wartime haunts in Italy while he's there. Please report to me any unusual circumstances or occurrences that take place while Branton is away. And then at the same time, there was a report saying Branton applied for a passport, and in the passport he stated that his marital status was married. We have searched the records of Los Angeles County, and we can find no evidence of a marriage license ever been issued. We have searched the records of Little Rock, Arkansas, and Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and we find there's no record of ever been issued. So therefore, we must assume, because he is living openly with his wife and 3 children, we must assume that he is married. Now, the reason this is significant is because most people don't realize it, but it's a felony to give a false statement to a governmental agency. And when I told them I was married, and if I had not been married, that would have been grounds for them to bring charges against me for making false statements to the government. But they never thought about going to Las Vegas. That's where I got married.
The last thing I want to ask, I want to take you back to Pine Bluff, Arkansas. You and your brother Wiley, who was also an attorney and also has his history with the civil rights movement, went back there to handle a case, right?
Yes.
And after the case was, who was the judge on that case?
Well, my brother Wiley, who was doing civil rights work all over the South, who was the second black graduate from the University of Arkansas Law School, called me and said, Leo, I'm going to try a case, civil rights case in Pine Bluff. Why don't you come back and help me try the case? So I did. I went back to have him try the case. And we went in, and he said, let me go back in chambers and ask the judge to allow you to appear on this case, because I had no license to practice in Arkansas. But a lawyer can go to any state and he can be permitted to practice for 1 or 2 cases, but not to have a practice. So he took me back in the chambers, and lo and behold, the prosecutor who had made these statements in courtroom about me and having enough money to go away to college is now the judge. And my brother walks in, he says, Judge so you remember my brother Leo? He said, oh yes, I remember your brother. And so he said, welcome to he said, your petition for Mr. Branton, and he called me Mr. incidentally, is granted. So I said, Your Honor, I want to make a motion. He said, what motion do you want to make? I said, I want to make a motion to quash this jury panel. Now the jury panel was integrated by then. to quash this jury panel on the grounds of systematic inclusion of Negroes. So he said, what are you talking about? You Negroes for years have been talking about systematic exclusion. We put Negroes on there. Now you want to have systematic inclusion? What do you mean? I said, just what it says, Your Honor. You include just enough Negroes who it looks like Negroes are going to be on the jury, but they're always just enough so you can use all your challenges and get rid of them, so you end up with an all-white jury as it is. So he denied my motion. We went out and tried the case. It was a very difficult case for us to try, but what happened, because the defendant had been accused of knifing a young white fella who had tried to stop he and his daughter from going to an integrated school, and he had cut him, and he was charged with attempted murder. But the jury hung 10-2 for acquittal. And after the verdict was over, which was quite a victory, we walked down on, and the courthouse was up like the Supreme Court. There were steps leading up to it. My brother and I were down there on the steps talking to all these people that come around for hundreds of miles around, because they all knew about what had happened to me when I was there. And they said, you know, Leo Branton is back in town. And he and that young Branton are going to try this case. So during the course of the trial, whenever we make a point, the people who were sitting there, now the audience is integrated. They say, yes, yeah, praise the Lord. And the judge had to warn them 2 or 3 times to be quiet, you know, but they were so thrilled. And then after it was all over, they were coming up and hugging us and embracing us and everything. And then all of a sudden the crowd got quiet. And I looked up, and the people were parting, like the party of the sea, and the judge is walking down. He walks down, he holds out his hand and says, Leo, come back to my court anytime. And shook my hand, and he said, I have dismissed the case. He dismissed the case, and they didn't have a second trial. I returned to Arkansas when my mother died in 1971. And my brother told me that Judge, I don't remember his name now, Judge so-and-so, the same judge who had been the district attorney and who welcomed me back to the court, came over and he said, I came over to pay my respects to your brother Leo. He said, I want to tell him I am so sorry about what had happened to him when I was a prosecutor in his case. He never got to tell me personally, but he told my brother. So that goes to show you that people can change. Yeah.
Leo Branton Jr. championed those who seen lost causes, Black Panthers, Angela Davis, Communist Party members, and young black airmen. He was elegant, funny, articulate, and gave voice to those who would be silenced. We stand to salute this moral and legal legend who walked with us for almost a century. Leo Branton, hero and national treasure. CAAM's mission is to collect, preserve, and interpret for public enrichment the art, history, and culture of African Americans. The History Council supports this mandate with Conversations at CAAM, capturing the memories and experiences of people, places, and movements that changed our history.